Welcome back to part 6, and hopefully this is going to be the last video on the truck. Not forever, it's just what the truck was initially dropped off for. Hopefully we could wrap it up in this video. As you can see, we got the wheels off of it again, and look how nice all this stuff look, guys. Last time we were working on the truck, I did the front left side, and I'm going to show you the front right side just to show that I did get it done, as you can see. So the first thing I want to start on is the stabilizer bar. So I'm going to go ahead, remove the links and the bushings. And I'm not just going to put the new parts on it, because this bar actually interferes with the pitman arm. You can see it right there, and the bar is going across. So I think it's in my best interest to completely remove this bar. It does look like that's possible. If I remove the bushings and the links, we could just kind of pull this out of here. Now, I'm not concerned with the old bushings and links, because as you can see, 2 new stabilizer links right there and a set of brand new bushings. So let's go ahead and zip that off of the car. All right, so of course we're going to start with the stabilizer links, and I have to put a zip tie to hold this harness up, but these things are not metric. They're a little bit loose, so these are standard sizes, and I don't care to get the correct size, guys. All this crap's getting replaced. So I'm just going to hold the top with my wrench and zip the bottom off with my impact gun. Alright, so instead of just fighting with this side, let's go on the front right side and disconnect that stabilizer link, and it'll help with removing both of them. I apologize for the noise in the background, but it's a nice day and the kids are out playing, so can't do anything about that. We should be able to push up the stabilizer bar just like that and get out the complete stabilizer link. And there we have it. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the one on the front left side, the first one we did. Alright, so the bar is completely disconnected from the links. Next thing is we got to remove the 2 bolts that hold on the bushings. They appear to be 10 mils, so let's see if they come out without a fight. Oh, this is my snap-on ratchet, the flex head, the one with the locking. I absolutely hate this thing, and I regret buying this thing. I should have just bought a regular flex head. So much that I ended up taking all this apart, and I ground off the little tooth that's supposed to lock, and now it's basically just a regular flex head. As you can see, it doesn't lock anymore. This thing has been problematic since day one. Come on, baby. It blows my mind that these are just 10 mil heads on these bolts. I mean, the bolt itself looks pretty stout, but the head, like, why a 10 mil? I think it's just space constraints. But I know you guys can't see, but the entire bolt does appear to be spinning, but it doesn't feel great. So I'm gonna try to just work it back and forth here. Alright, so this side's all done. I'm going to go repeat this process on the other side. As you can see, I got the bushings and the bracket off. Let's see if this will come out of here. I'm not certain it will, but we're going to try. And I'm already running into problems. Alright guys, it's very obvious this thing is not coming out of here, so I'm going to stop wasting time on it. At least we got it free, and we could move it wherever we need to, so it's not in the way while we're working on everything else. Next step is let's go ahead and knock out these outer tie rods. They should be pretty loose since we just had them off. So I already disconnected the right side. Are you kidding me? You were just out. I even put grease on you. There we go. Alright, so next up I want to disconnect the idler arm and the pitman arm. I'm going to try to move the sway bar a little bit so it's not in my way so much. So I'm going to try to get the cotter pin out of here. It appears to be pretty loose, so that's a good sign that it's going to come out pretty easy usually. Alright, so that's the cotter pin removed, as you can see. Let me get the nut off. So it looks like that's going to be a 21. Now I could fight with this and try to get the pickle fork up here, but I think I'm just going to go for the proper tool this time and just do it that way. Well, surprisingly, there isn't much space between the pitman arm and the center link to get like the little ears. I don't know if you guys can see this, but the little ears on the puller, they don't even want to fit between. There's always a problem, right? I just thought about something. What if I turn the steering wheel and maybe I could get that joint a little bit closer to me? Let's find out. Alright, so that works. It is a little bit closer. I guess let's just try the pickle fork then. Okay, we're all set with the air hammer. Hopefully this just popped through. You know what? Let's use some penetrating oil. I know a lot of people are saying in the comment section that it doesn't work, but I strongly believe that it does work. So run and tell that. All right. And contact. There's absolutely no clearance between those two joints. Like, not even the pickle fork wants to make its way in there. Alright, so I switched attachments on the pickle fork. This one has a bit of a wider head on it. It just isn't doing anything. It's not trying to split the joints or... Oh my goodness. So I went ahead and ground down the tip of my tool. You can see it has much more of a aggressive taper. And hopefully that's enough to wedge between those two joints. All right, let's give it a shot again. If I'm being honest, this thing doesn't look like it's budging at all. Like the tool doesn't want to wedge. This right here seems to be the only puller I could fit under, so let's go ahead and give this a try. Oh, I thought the tool just fell off, but it actually broke the joint. So that's disconnected. It just goes to show that if the air hammer would have been able to get between that joint, it would have popped it off super easy because that wasn't even on there that tight. Anyway, let's move over to the idler arm and let's do the same thing. There goes the nut. Come on, baby. So I had to scoot you guys back because this thing is about to give birth. Let's see if we could get this out of here. Congratulations, it's a they them. If you're wondering why I didn't disconnect the inner tie rod from the center link, it's because it's all getting replaced anyway. So why waste any energy on that? You can see it's laid out right next to all the new pieces. And I bet you now that we have that out, we could probably pull out the stabilizer bar. And sure enough, it does come out. Now don't forget to remind me to put in the stabilizer bar before we put in the center link and the tie rods. Don't forget to remind me. So I'm not surprised to see that this thing has different size nuts on it. This one right here and the one on top are going to be 18 mils. And this one off to the right is going to be a 19 mil. So we'll give it the classic reach around. And this thing's going to get the double hand job. All right, it seems like we're going to need more power. Get to the chopper. So we got the big boy high torque. My wrench on the other side is still holding. It's actually wedged up against the frame, so it's still holding that nut. That's not good. The nut's still completely tight on that side. So how was this thing spinning? Tell me I'm using the wrong socket, and I'm just... This one fits nice and snug, 18 mil. Then I go over to this one, and plenty of play. Jeez Louise, what's going on here? All right, the 17 fits nice and snug. Let's see if we got any luck with this one. There goes the nut, and the wrench just fell, so that's a good sign. Here's that bolt, and you can see how the 18 mil started to round it off. I don't like it, guys. I mean, I'm happy I got it out, but I don't feel good about reusing this. I'm gonna see if I have a similar bolt in my collection of random nuts and bolts to see if we could replace this. All right, let's check the final one. 17 mil does not fit, so go back to the 18 mil. I'd say that fits pretty snug, so I have no problem using that. All right, let's see if we can pull this thing out of here. So here goes the new parts. One thing I'm noticing is that the one that came off has no Zerk fittings, so it's non-greasable, non-serviceable. Whereas the new one is. You can see it has a Zerk fitting on top, but I also noticed it also has a Zerk fitting on the side. And I checked inside the bag, which was this one right here, and there is no extra Zerk fitting inside of here. So obviously we cannot leave this port open like that. It needs to be plugged. We need a Zerk fitting to put in here. So I'm gonna see if I can find one. So I was about to tell you guys, hey, we're missing more than one part here, because I'm looking at the old one and I could see a boot right there. See a dust cover? And if you were to put this new one on just like this, that's pretty much exposed. So I'm like, in the bag, there's nothing else. Obviously, we're missing a boot. Someone's been in here. You get what I'm saying? And then I decided to look at this, which was on here when I first opened up the package. And inside of here, sure enough, guys, here goes the dust cover. So that has to go on there just like that. But the only thing we are missing is that extra Zerk fitting. But thankfully, you guys remember the ball joint that did not fit this truck because it doesn't use press and ball joints? Well, if you look inside the package here somewhere, there is a Zerk fitting. Here it goes right here. Just took it out this package, and hopefully it threads in, because we already had a history of these things not wanting to thread in. So that Zerk fitting actually threaded in very nicely. No issues at all. As you can see, I got my grease gun connected to it. I'm going to start pumping some grease in right now, only because it's super easy. Now, I don't think we have to pump into both ports, because I think the grease is essentially going into the same place. You know what? Screw it. Let's just go ahead and go into the other port. Watch out, old girl. We're coming in both ends. All right, that should be good enough. I'll clean up the little bit of grease that's oozing out. So I've got the arm attached to the bracket. This nut is all torqued down. I even put a little bit of blue thread locker on there just in case. And you can see I got the Zerk fitting in. I'm pumping grease into this joint, and I'm gonna give it one more pump, and you guys could get a visual on this. So go ahead and pump it now. And that's pretty much what happens when you're pumping grease into these joints. So this one's pretty much all done. No need to put any more because it's just gonna start oozing out. As you can see, I got this thing fully bolted down. It's ready to go. And all 3 nuts on the backside are now 18 mils, as well as the head of the bolt on the other side. Everything's 18 mil for that. The next thing is we need to get to the pitman arm, that bad boy right there. So apparently you got to remove the entire gearbox or the steering gear, not take it off of the truck, just unbolt it and push it forward enough so we could get access to the nut that's right there. You can see just right there, we have just enough angle to get a socket on this. As you can see, I got the nut and the washer off of it. So let's put a puller on it and see if it comes off. Here goes the 3 bolts for the steering gear, and you can see how nasty they look. I don't want to put them back in like this, so I'm gonna take them over to the wire wheel and clean them up a little bit. And that looks a lot better. As you can see, I put some blue thread locker on them. So let's go ahead and get the steering gear mounted once again. The steering gear is back in place, and there goes our new pitman arm. All right, so the next thing is we have to put in the stabilizer bar. Thanks for reminding me, by the way. So as you can see, I put the brand new bushings on it already, and I put just a little bit of grease underneath the bushings. Nothing major. You don't want crazy amount of grease oozing out because that just collects dirt and debris. You know, just a tiny bit. That's good enough. So let's go ahead and put this back on. I'm all done with the sway bar and the bushings. You can see everything is fully torqued down on both sides, and there's a immediate difference in these bushings. You can see the bar is nice and stiff now. Feels good to me. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and call it quits for tonight, guys. It's about 11 p.m. Absolutely filthy. So I got all of the tie rods connected to the center link, and all I did was grab a measuring tape and I measured the original tie rods, got my measurement off of them, and then I tried to get the new ones as close as possible. Now once this thing is on the car and everything's done, I'm going to try to adjust the toe of the wheels as close as I can get it, just so the car drives relatively straight down the road. But 100% this truck needs to go in for a wheel alignment. All of the Zerk fittings have been installed and I put grease in them already. Now these new tie rods came with nuts that look just like this, and as you can see, we don't have nice shiny nuts on it. Same thing on this side. Okay, when I installed this side first, the nut actually stripped out, so the threads on the tie rod were perfectly fine, but these things completely stripped out, and here goes the nut that was there. Look at that, absolutely no threads at all. And I wasn't over torquing it, it just went straight from tightening, and no threads at all. So I was forced to cut it off, and that's why I switched over to these nice heavy duty nuts. I was able to torque everything down, no issues at all. These things are just you know, cheap Chinese garbage. It's nice that all tie rods are new. You can see everything stays nice and stiff. No flaccidness going on here. This thing just had its Viagra pills. So I'm going to apply that same thing to the idler and pitman arm. So these are the brand new nuts that were supplied with them. And guys, this Chinese metal just feels like it has no mass to it. There's no weight. It just feels, just doesn't feel right. It doesn't give you a good feeling, you know what I mean? Compared to the original Castle nuts that I took off of the truck, this metal actually has some weight to it. It has some heft. So yeah, I don't want to do this. These, you put some torque on them and it immediately pulls the threads. I'm not taking a chance on this. These original Castle nuts are perfectly fine. The center link is fully connected. Everything's torqued down. All the cotter pins are installed. I even got the outer tie rods connected and torqued down. This joint right here is loose. Like I said, I'm still gonna make a final adjustment once I get the car on the ground and start doing some measurements. But at this point, I think the last thing we have to do is put on the stabilizer links. They go right here. As you can see, I got the stabilizer link installed. The front right side is also installed. Now, if you look up here, you can see the stud is actually touching the upper control arm, and that's because it's at full droop. I noticed that if I load the suspension, like if the car were on the ground, there's actually a pretty good gap, maybe about 1 inch or so. But I did notice that the original ones that came off, they were cut. So if that's the case here, that I noticed that they're still too close, even with the car on the ground, I'll go ahead and shorten the length of this stud. Not a big deal. Anyway, the other side's all done, so this thing's pretty much set. Let's go ahead and put the wheels back on it. Actually, before we put the wheels on it, I want to do one more thing. About 2 videos back, some people had some questions about the automated bleed service through my scanner, because they've seen other technicians, and I've seen it as well on YouTube, of technicians using like a snap-on scanner, and when they're going through the automated bleed sequence, there's a certain procedure. It'll say like, okay, pump the brake pedal a few times, hold it, and then it'll tell them to like go to the front left bleed valve, open it up, right, and then rinse and repeat, and the scanner tells them which wheel to go to and what to do next. Whereas on my launch scanner, which I'm using this one, it doesn't go through any of that. All it says is continuously pump the brake pedal while it's going through the automated bleed service, and then after maybe like 5-10 seconds, it just says complete. That's it. And I did notice that the pedal did get better after doing that sequence, but people were telling me that I should bleed one more time after doing that, and I haven't done it yet. So I'm gonna kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. Okay, so we are in here. Here goes the automated bleed. Click on that. All of that's pretty much ready. That's ready. Apply and hold the brake pedal. I'm holding the brake right now. I'm still holding the pedal because that's what it says. And that's pretty much it, guys. So I'm gonna let go of the brake pedal now. And as you can see, there was no procedure like on the snap-on scanner where it says, okay, now go to the front left and open up that valve. Now go to the front right and open up that valve. There is none of that. So some people had some questions about that, and I'm like, I'm not pulling your leg. That's exactly what the scanner has me do. Just simply push the brake pedal, and then it says complete after it activates the ABS module. So I just finished bleeding at each of the wheels, and I got to give it to you guys. The ones that said, hey, you got to bleed one more time after that automated bleed sequence, absolutely correct. Even though I thought the pedal felt great, the 2 rear wheel cylinders, no air at all. Just pure brake fluid, everything looked great. But both of the front calipers, little tiny bubbles of air came out. Nothing major. It was like for a split second, and then nothing but fluid. Just goes to show there was a little bit more bleeding to do. And thank you anyone who pointed that stuff out to me. So now we could actually go ahead and put the wheels on this turd. So I pulled the truck out of the garage and back in just to get everything to settle. And looking at the front wheels, they both look like they got too much toe out. So I'm just gonna use my measuring tape, get underneath the truck, start measuring things, and I'll do a quick toe adjustment on this thing. The steering wheel is straight. Like I said, this thing has to go in for wheel alignment 100%. I'm just trying to get the front wheels so they're parallel to each other. So let me go ahead and knock that out. So I'm done with my adjustments. I pretty much maxed out the toe on both sides. I had to give it more toe in, and that setting is completely maxed out. Like, I can't move those tie rods anymore, and the wheels still don't look great. The reason for that is because the camber and the caster are still out of whack. If the camber and caster isn't right, then you're never going to get the toe right. And that's just the reality of it. This thing needs to go in for a proper wheel alignment. So I've done all I can. I guess let's take it out for a test drive. Too bad. You got to keep correcting the steering wheel, obviously. But guys, back there before I started recording, I was, you know, swerving, doing hood rat stuff, and the truck is actually more responsive. Even though the alignment is out of whack, it's still more responsive than how it was before when it had all the bad ball joints. That's crazy, right? So let me show you a little bit more. Right now I'm just gonna swerve back and forth, and this thing, yeah, it's very responsive. I'm actually quite shocked. Is it good for the tires? No. The you know, the alignment will destroy the tires if you don't go get an alignment. But as far as handling, the truck is handling better. So I'm gonna go around the block one more time. All right, let's go back to the garage. I don't want to be driving this turd for too long because it might blow up with my luck, or the police pull me over and they shoot me for driving a truck like this. Because when you're in a truck like this, trust me, police assume you're up to no good. All right, so back in the garage here, and the truck is noticeably better when it comes down to handling, and it's only going to get better once it gets a proper wheel alignment. After that, it's going to be real nice. Yeah, at this point, I'm talking to my friend. 100%, don't BS on this. Take it in for a wheel alignment. If you can't get the wheel alignment done ASAP, you're better off not even driving the truck, because what's going to happen is all those new parts we put on, they're going to get destroyed. And I've seen this before. I put new suspension or steering components on people's cars, and they think that the wheel alignment's a waste of money, that the alignment shop's just trying to rob them, and they don't need it. The car handles and drives fine. And, you know, just a month or two later, the new ball joints and tie rods I put on, absolutely destroyed. The job needs to get done again. If you can't get to the wheel alignment right away, don't drive the truck. Let it sit until that wheel alignment. I'm super happy about this turd. It's just one of those things, you know. It's like, it's so ugly, you gotta love it. I put so much work into this truck, you guys already know. And even though it's finally gonna be leaving from my garage, I'm sure we'll see it someday again in the future. Maybe it won't be anytime soon, but we'll see it again for something. This truck still needs plenty of work. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching. This is what, like, video number 6 on this Tahoe. I hope you enjoyed the series, and like always, thanks for watching.